I
We got it. We're just over here troubleshooting things like technology with Uranus and Gemini. So fun. Hello, and welcome to the Asteroid times Goddess podcast series. Jen and I were trying to figure out a way to collaborate
hmm
on an episode for her podcast. And then I was talking about Ceres. It's funny, someone asked me the other day, why are we talking about her right now? Like, is she like doing stuff? And I was like, she's in Taurus, which is one of her like happy signs, and it's Taurus season. And so a few newsletters back, I was talking about her also just because she's kind of my favorite. I think, especially when it comes to the things that I teach, like nervous system and manifestation work, she feels like super important in the realms of like creating safety in your own body and like feeling resourced and nurtured. So I've always loved her. So I was talking about her and I messaged Jen and was like, how about we do a goddess asteroid series because Jen loves to talk about goddesses and the mythology, which is not my strong suit.
That's my favorite.
And here we are. And now we're like, we're gonna do this one and this one and this one and this one. So who knows how long this will last? We will feel it out, but we're definitely gonna do the big four. And then we've had some requests, and then we both have some that we're like kind of itching to dive into, and ones that are prominent in our charts and things. So it's gonna be super fun. So the way this is going to work is Jen is going to give you the download transmission on the energetics and the mythology, and then I will talk about the astrology following that. So do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I I didn't know who Ceres was, and I think we're gonna like toggle between Ceres and Ceres because both Amanda and I were like, "What's her name? Is it Ceres? Is it Ceres?" And that's what I want to keep calling her, so that's probably gonna slip out. But Ceres in Roman myth is actually Demeter in Greek myth. And I had no idea. So their stories, though, are very similar. And I know Demeter's story because I also have worked very closely with Persephone. And so I want to just kind of go through Ceres's story, like her origin, her story, and then also kind of give like my own personal pings, like what I got, and later learning another story about her. And then we can kind of get into like the archetypal energy, and then we can move on to Amanda explaining and like bringing this all together and like how this really reflects back in our own chart. So, I really, in the beginning, I was like, Ceres and Demeter felt like actually very disconnected. But the more I started working with Ceres, I was like, oh, wow, okay, I can really feel this now. So she is known to represent agriculture or crop growth, fertility, mothering, like nurturing, law and order, which I found kind of surprising. But after I kind of sunk into her energy, I was like, okay, this starts to make sense. Cycles of life and death, renewal, which completely makes sense, especially with the story of Persephone. Her father is Saturn, who was a Titan. Her mother is Rhea, who was also a Titan. And I really like that because for me personally, the Titans feel primordial. Like they feel really, really, really old. So the story with Ceres is she has her daughter. In this story, her name is Proserpina, not Persephone. But I might toggle back between those two as well, because Proserpina feels like hard to remember. So anyway, this is a mother-daughter relationship. She's got strong ties to her daughter. She loves her daughter. She, of course, nurtures her daughter. Proserpina grows up feeling loved, feeling nurtured, feeling supported. And then Pluto comes along and is like, hey, I really like you. I'm going to take you with me. And swipes Proserpina, that's the story, takes her against her will and takes her into his realm. Well, what would any mother do in that moment? Like, they would lose their shit. I mean, and that's exactly what Ceres does. And what's super, super interesting is like there are stories of her. Um, there are still, like, even after this story, there are still stories of where if she's enraged, she will cause like blight on crops, like, and she can get angry, like really angry. And in this story, specifically losing her daughter, it's like she completely refuses to accept the fate of Proserpina not being with her. She's like, she set out to completely destroy the world. And that's really interesting because that's where we kind of see that's, do you remember me talking about how I felt like we kind of had like a nice, um, stabilized, like temperature and setting? And then after and then something changed, and that's when we started to get the seasons. This is like very much that story. So we had like a temperate climate, and then it's like Proserpina gets taken and Ceres loses her mind and completely stops participating in her job to help crops grow and help renewal. And it wasn't just like our own renewal, it was like the renewal of the earth, right? The cycle that we all need to exist. So the seasons kind of stopped, but we didn't really have like crazy seasons. So Proserpina is with Pluto, and what's really interesting is this is where we start to see spring and summer, which is when Proserpina is able to return to her mother, and we get fall and winter, which is when Proserpina is then with Pluto. And summer and spring represents renewal, winter and fall, or fall and winter represents like dormancy.
Isn't that because she like ate some pomegranate seeds? So she got, I heard the whole thing is that she went
So
down there and they were trying to make a deal. And then she accidentally, well, not accidentally, he gave her pomegranate seeds knowing that that would like
to
somehow
trick
bind
her.
them together.
Yes. And it was actually, I don't even think it was Ceres's brother who went down to get Proserpina. But because, yes, because she ate the pomegranate seed, which is also really wild because the pomegranate seed actually has a massive tie to our cycles as women. So
Everyone should be eating pomegranate seeds for the record.
everyone should be eating pomegranate seeds. And there's, again, it's like these stories, I love these stories, but there's so much metaphor in them. You know what I mean? There's so much like maybe what we would call absolute, like pomegranate seeds are really good for our cycles, but also like, why would Pluto give her the pomegranate seed? Was it really to tie her to the underworld, or was it to get her to maybe understand something that she didn't understand before? Who knows? There's too many layers. I'll stick to what I'm doing. But yes, 100%. So she wasn't able to be rescued. And that was also a really frustrating thing for Ceres because her dad, Saturn, knew about Proserpina being abducted. And no, it was like nobody did anything about it and nobody told Ceres. So she felt really betrayed and like she had to do this all on her own. It was like nobody would help her. And I mean, I get that as a mother, you know what I mean? And also without being a mother, like this feeling of like you put your heart and soul into something and it's taken away and people knew about it and nobody was going to help you. It's like that is just such a raw emotion. So Ceres could not let go of the fact that Proserpina was not able to come back to her. And that right there gets me really choked up because it's like there's a loss, that you're kind of like gripping to. So Ceres is also said to be the protector and the nourishing of the young seed, but I feel like that also has such a deeper meaning too, because I feel like there's abundance there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's eternal provision if used and tapped into, right? So the story is that Ceres is I don't even know if I have words to really describe. Like I could just see her like dragging herself, because she like her grief is so deep from losing her daughter, and she cannot let go. And there's this story that I came across, like when I was tapping into this, I got wolves, and I was like, I've never heard of Demeter connected with wolves, and so how is Ceres connected with wolves? And there's actually this story, and the wolves felt very powerful to me before I even understood what was going on. So let me backtrack. The story with Ceres and her daughter is the prominent story. That's like the story that everybody knows, right? Demeter and Persephone, the mother who is nurturing, probably overgiving, a little bit of a control freak, but pouring her heart and soul into her daughter, into the relationship with her daughter, into what she does, and her daughter being taken from her, and she can't do anything about it. But then I feel like the wolves have this powerful energy that I had no idea was also another aspect of the story of Ceres that I feel like probably isn't talked about. I had never heard of it. And the wolf, when I got it, it was like, okay, this feels like protector, but this also feels like intuition. Wolves are known to connect and bridge two different worlds. So whether that's the spiritual world and the real world, or the subconscious to the conscious, they're a bridge. And there's this story of Ceres where she is looking for her daughter, and she's exhausted, and she's looking for water. And I literally see her like crawling in the dirt, like she's trying to crawl to this creek to get this water to just nourish herself. And there are two shepherds, and they see her crawling, and they go over and they kick up all the muck in the water, and they dirty it so she can't get a clean cup of handful of water. And like I just felt that like you just break, because you're doing all the things, and it's like nobody's gonna help you. And then the wolves show up, and there's like a pack of wolves, and they were basically like, follow us, you need to follow us. And so she followed them to the river called Xanathos. And what's really interesting in this mythology is Xanath actually has he's a sentient river. So I just thought that was really interesting, right? There's a lot even in that. And the wolves tell her to drink from this river. And she did. But what was felt so powerful in that story, and it makes me want to cry now, is that it's like symbology. As I bawl, it's symbology for her to like process everything that she's gone through. You know what I mean? Like the river's moving, she's choosing to nourish herself. It's almost like she's able to process the trauma. She's able to process the grief and let the emotions flow, because right now that's the thing, is like even Amanda and I were talking, and I said, yesterday I texted her, I was like, I'm so frustrated right now and I feel really angry. And I put on music to listen to, and it really helped me cry, like it allowed me to get to the deeper emotions. And I feel like this was a way for Ceres to really not just be angry, but really process what she had been through, and allow the process to start of letting go what she could not control. And it got me thinking about the archetypal energy, because a lot of people just see Demeter or Ceres as like the nurturer, and she is the ultimate mother. But when I tap into the ultimate mother, that does not necessarily mean like the giver, the nurturer, the nourisher. Uh, there's like a wild aspect to it. There's this part of it that is like primal. There is a primal aspect, and
I think that's true for mothers too. Like there's a feral
100%.
aspect to being a mom, the
Yes.
protector side of you.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're not a mother, I think there are different experiences that we could go through that would bring up that type of reaction to something.
Mhm.
So it was really interesting because I was like, okay, this is bringing in this energy of like the wild woman, and it's like she's nurturing but yet untamed. You know what I mean? Like there's just something about it that's like yeah, I want to use like feral, primal, it cannot be explained. It's felt. Like when you get to rage and like that type of rage, it cannot be explained with words. It's just felt.
Mhm.
And so I keep getting this, okay, there's nurturing, but there's untamed. And it's like she's grounded in the earth, but also attuned to the wild spirit. But I think she had to come into balance with that herself. And I think that is the story. I think it was maybe one of the first times that she maybe felt this grief or felt this type of rage. And it might have just been giving, 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 giving. And then she kind of was able to come into balance. So now she was able, after going through that experience, she understands there's like a flow with like there's an ebb and flow. And maybe not clinging to fixed outcomes because we want something. And I know as a mother, it's like you visualize your children and the path that they should go on, but that doesn't mean they go on that path. They take their own path. So it's like, really, how do we um, move with the ebb and flow of life while letting go of what we think needs to happen? And I think this is where the paradox comes in, right? And every time I work with the goddess, it's never just one story. It is a complete encapsulation of the paradox because it is about being nurturing. It is about giving. It is about self-sacrificing, but there's also this aspect of her that it's like the wild, the feral, the primal, the untamed, the things that are not going to make sense, the wild woman energy. And I think that's what's so beautiful because she will help us see, just like she was able to see in herself, where was I over giving? Where was I letting my emotions control me? And where are there still moments that I can still be allowed to tap into that primal feral self? Because that's the other thing is we're not supposed to be one thing or the other. We're supposed to be all of it. But we just don't want any aspect of it to completely take over. Does that make sense? So it's like you can see how in the beginning of the story where she was the overgiver, she was really nurturing to her daughter, probably self-sacrificing in a way where she wasn't attuned to her own flow and her own cycles. And then we move into her losing her daughter and completely going wild and feral and almost uncontrollable. Like nobody could console her. Nobody could try to calm her down. Nobody could contain her, but she had to do it herself. She had to get to a point where she would allow that all to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like so big. And I had never heard the wolves story too, because like wolves are also connected to intuition. And like just as women, I feel like I don't want to put anybody down, but like as women, we're known to be a little bit more intuitive, right? And it's like the wolves helping her tap into that to like really understand what's happening and to let go and to come back into the ebb and flow of life. Like, okay, I can't control this anymore. I have to let her go live her own life. And how do I support myself while still supporting others or supporting the reality that's in front of me?
Yeah.
The wolf story surprised me. And it just, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is like this, yeah, the grief that she
Yeah.
felt, and rage, the rage.
Yes. Big rage.
So,
Not all compassion and like
yeah,
it's not like the great mother in the way that we think of. I mean, mothers are layered, you know? I saw this great post on Mother's Day, and this woman was like, people always think that like becoming a mother is going to make you soft, but becoming a mother makes you like a feral cat, basically, like ready to, defend your
yeah,
young and the whole mama
yes,
bear thing. And that part of us that is so primal. And she's that as well. I mean, she was like, until Persephone's back, there will be no crops, there will be
yes,
no abundance, everything will be dark. And the whole idea, right, is that now when Persephone spends her time with Pluto, because she's not allowed to like break that bond with Pluto, Hades, is like fall and winter when things are shedding and
yes.
going dormant. And then she comes back and we have abundance and flowers and all the things.
Like, and you can tell, like, her heart is full,
Hmm.
her
Yeah.
heart is full and exploding. And yeah, I think it's really, and like what you said about she wanted everybody to suffer what she was suffering.
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
I can't be happy, then you can't be happy.
Nobody's eaten.
Nobody's eaten. If I am exhausting myself and trying to find my child and going hungry and thirsty and nobody will help me, then no, I won't help you. And I can see that, I really can see that. But I also can see how much of her in the mother aspect, like I love the wild woman archetype, but in the mother archetype, where she really, she did self-sacrifice so much of maybe her own being to give so much to her daughter and give to that life and to that reality. And um, where did she maybe overgive to not allow herself? Like it's almost like Proserpina became her only reality. There was no reality without Proserpina. So where was she overgiving to that reality and not giving to herself or to other aspects of life? And uh, you know, it's a hard balance, but that's what her whole story is coming into balance,
Hmm.
and really understanding that we all go through phases, but to not let these phases um consume us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would love to. Do you have any questions for me for her story?
I don't think so.
Did you know the wolf story?
Mm-mm.
I mean,
No,
I
I've heard
love
that
that.
she's tied to snakes, but I had not heard wolves, which I always think is really interesting. And I made a side note of it in my notes, but I'll just say it now. Like I have a snake coiled around my arm tattoo, and that's like a symbol of her is like this snake coils around the arms.
I have the wolf.
That's so hilarious. Wow, we are like the two back to back. I have a wolf's tooth, but I don't have a wolf. Um, but yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, that's really funny because we both have what I would consider kind of a prominent Ceres
Placement.
chart. Yeah. Or like informative one,
Yeah.
uh defining one. I guess that's the way I would say it, a defining one. So that was really interesting. But no, I hadn't heard the wolf story. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was really surprised. And I think that's why I like how I tap in so much is that I don't over research.
Yeah.
Um, so I give so much room for these other aspects to come through, but I don't feel like diluted with all the information that you can kind of get caught up in. But anyway, I'm excited to learn more astrologically because I feel there's so much for all of us here of like, Ceres can really show us maybe where we do need to soften a little bit, maybe where we might be a little over controlling, um, maybe where we need to trust in our phases or our seasons of life a little bit more, and maybe I almost want to say like where we could tame ourselves, like with our emotions. Like, you and I have talked about this before, like in our own personal journeys, but like I have a lot of suppressed rage, and like that was never okay to feel. And I think, I'm learning now, like, no, that is a primal. I don't want to be Ceres where I'm like, I'm just gonna tear everybody apart. But I do need to allow myself to feel that and use it in a productive way. And so where is it maybe that we're like containing ourselves? We're not letting ourselves tap into that primal, like wild woman archetype. So I
Yeah.
am excited to hear everything that you have to offer.
Yeah, I think she reminds us that we need to practice healthy aggression, which is also probably why I'm drawn to her because that's like a
Me
tenet of
too.
my business. I'm like, let's move it through. And I have her in Aries, so that's like
Woo!
rage on rage. So I know it needs to move. And also like wherever she is in our chart is where we might suppress our emotions, where we might, or
Mhm.
where we might need to move things,
Yep.
where we might have a lot of feels that we need to move. So yeah, let's get into it. I feel like she was a really big discovery for me, which I talked about in my newsletter a couple weeks ago, because in our natal charts, the angular houses are so big, like the first, fourth, seventh, 10th houses. And I would bring in, if you're someone like me, who by whole sign houses, your midheaven and your angles fall outside, like your midheaven and IC fall outside of the 10th and fourth house, then I would bring in those houses because they're kind of like married because it falls outside. But those houses are like our most important houses, and I don't really have planetary placements in those houses in the first, fourth, seventh, 10th, except for Pluto and the moon opposite each other. So, and I've got pretty much my entire chart below the horizon, except for my moon, which is in the 10th house of like the most visible place in my chart with Ceres. So when I found her, it felt like really potent to me. Also, as someone who had had astrology readings in the past when I didn't really understand astrology, and people would look at my chart and go, "Oh, you're like a Cancer rising, and you've got all this fifth house stuff, like mothering is going to be important to you." And I was always like, no, like it's not. I mean, I have dated men with kids, and I'm not opposed to like having children in my life, but I tried to tie my tubes at 17. Like I was like, I know I'm not having kids. And as a Cancer rising, to have my moon in the 10th house, it was like, okay, well, maybe like the way that I nurture is more about my career and my work and like what I do in the world and what my legacy is. But then to have Ceres there with my moon, it felt just like, oh, okay, like now I get it because Ceres is also kind of a substitute. I mean, not a substitute, a like secondary ruler of Cancer. So if you're a Cancer
Oh,
rising,
I
like
didn't.
where you
I
have
am.
Ceres is kind of important, Even if you're like a Taurus rising, that Taurus Scorpio axis is very Ceres, and also Virgo is very Ceres. So like people with strong Cancer, Virgo, Taurus, Scorpio placements like might feel more drawn to Ceres, or if you have Ceres in your first, fourth, seventh, 10th house, or if you have Ceres conjunct one of your personal planets, when we start getting into asteroids, there's millions. Like there's over
Yeah.
a million
Our
asteroids
series could
at
go
this point, I
forever.
think. What?
Our series could go forever.
Right. Well, I think it can get like overwhelming. Like I talk a lot
Yeah.
about in astrology and human design, like you don't need to pull every single thread. Like we can get so into the ideas of things and into our head and like pulling threads and looking at things and learning things, but not really embodying things. And I think Ceres is one of those that we should all embody. I think Ceres, Juno, Pallas, Vesta. Black Moon
Okay.
Lilith is not an asteroid. It's a space, but those feel pretty prominent that everyone should know where they are. When we start getting into other asteroids for fun, like Jen and I want to talk, like I've got Hygeia conjunct my midheaven, I've got Vesta conjunct Chiron. Like when we have like conjunctions like that, they become more important, but like we can pull endless threads, right? It's fun to find like what's important for you once we get beyond these like bigger major asteroids, which are those four. And I think what I wanted to say before I started talking about Ceres is how important I feel like this is for this time, you know? Um,
Yes.
I think that like one of the things that I've talked about is like the idea that people get caught up in things like my energy type. And then there will be these human design practitioners that build an entire business around energy type, or there will be other practitioners who start to just integrate energy type into their business and like qualify people by their energy type and not talk about anything else. And I think that stuff is really dangerous when you look at something like this. So if we think about Ceres astronomically, like her actual astronomy. Ceres was the very first asteroid discovered. Some astronomers actually believed that she like was a core planet that like exploded out the other asteroids, which makes sense that she would be the great mother that like birthed basically Juno, Pallas, and Vesta. Uh, but at any rate, she was qualified as an asteroid, and now she's qualified as a dwarf planet.
I did
So
see that.
if you look at your human design chart and the body graph and look, raw channeled, what raw channeled and whatever, but I've made bones about the fact that our traditional body graph doesn't include our ascendant, which feels kind of important as like the helm of our whole chart, like to not include that in some of those major calculations. And if we think about it, Pluto is also a dwarf planet and is included in the major body graph calculations, while Ceres is also a dwarf planet that is much closer into our system than like Pluto is significantly farther away than Ceres, you know? So I think for that reason, it's important. I also think, you know, the natal chart for all the times that it's been around has been like massively dominated by masculine archetypes, except for the moon,
Yep.
which is basically the mother, and Venus, which is basically the sex pot partner in like traditional astrology. You know, like we've been kind of reduced in the feminine to these
Hmm.
two archetypes. And so bringing in these at least major asteroids to your chart can really help balance things out, which is what we're doing collectively right now, right? Like the feminine has been repressed for thousands of years, and the asteroids kind of represent that like re-emerging of feminine at this time. And I've said many times, like the new paradigm, I'm not like the smash the patriarchy person. The new paradigm is not about swinging the pendulum like so far into the feminine.
Correct.
It's about balance. But we want balance, you know, the yin and the yang, and the diurnal and the nocturnal, and the left and the right brain, and the receptivity and the doing and the being and the action. Like we want all of those things to be balanced. And there's that great Cherokee prophecy that like we've been like a bird flying in a circle basically because the masculine wing has been over muscularized and the feminine wing of being and process oriented and intuition and receptivity and creativity has been largely like stuffed
Reduced.
down
Yeah.
and repressed, you know? So it really feels like as we move into this new incarnation cross and as we birth this new world, we're like bringing some balance to that. And we're having this like reawakening of the feminine, of the, you know, a lot of people talk about these two in the Aquarian age of like moving us into this collective oneness energy. It is that, but the human design incarnation cross it tells us that it's from an individuated place. Like we're not all kumbaya, I'm one in the group thing. We're meant to be pulling back and being like our unique, individuated blueprint that we're supposed to be in the world, and then contributing to the collective oneness from that space. So I think like studying them right now and like pulling threads and like bringing them into your awareness like helps us in this time of returning to beauty and intuition and creativity and remembering like our creator beingness and our artistry and like living more in that process than like chasing and hustling towards these homogenized ideas of success, which has been largely like where that kind of masculine energy has taken us. And I think they bring balance to our own natal charts because short of the moon and Venus, we've had all these dudes hanging out. So you bring in these
Hmm.
asteroids and it like brings some balance to the structure. And it's not about gender, it's about archetypes of feminine and masculine. Like men should also be looking at their Pallas and their Juno and their Vesta and their Ceres because we all carry those energies within us. We cannot be one without the other. You know, that's like perfectly represented in like left brain energy versus right brain energy, or like in Chinese medicine, you have a yang meridian that's part of the organ system and you have a yin meridian that's part of the organ system. They can't function without each other. Like the liver needs the gallbladder and the stomach needs the spleen. So I think it's like the perfect time to be doing this. If you have strong asteroids in your birth chart, then you're likely here to be like a bridge or catalyst for this time because all the asteroids, the major ones, including Ceres, have like a lot of that death rebirth energy to them. It also may mean that like your life hasn't been so easeful. And I was just talking to a member that emailed me yesterday about, she was saying she had read something on Substack by this person who was saying like, I felt basically like an alien my whole life and like I don't really belong in this world, and like I look around and I'm like I don't understand why I'm here, and like it's been so hard, or it's been hard to be in this space where you have to fight so hard to survive, and you can't really be in that being energy and in the creator energy and in the receptivity and in the artistry because you're just trying to like pay your bills and eat and like do all of these things. And there's a lot of people who have felt outside of this time. And I've said this on my podcast, like I've never been more excited to be alive than I am right now because of the world that we're stepping into, because I have always felt like a bit of a struggle bus in the
Yes.
energetic and like the spaces that we've been in now. And I've looked around the world and gone, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why we prioritize these things, or I don't understand why we have to work so hard, or I don't understand why there's all this brutalist architecture, like Jen and I talked about in the inversion of beauty. And I think it's because there are a bunch of people who are star seeds or whatever you want to call them who feel in their being that it's supposed to be different than it is right now. And the new paradigm that's coming is for those people, you know? It's like for those people. And if you have a lot of asteroids in your chart, then you might be one of these people that's like felt a little bit other, or like you're kind of this energy that's supposed to challenge homogenized society and the ways in which we've been living. And that can feel like not the easiest thing to do, right?
I feel like, oh, is it okay if I say something
Yeah,
real
go ahead.
quickly? Like everything that you're saying, I love and I resonate with, and I too feel the exact same way. And I think like with working with the goddesses, but looking into the asteroids in our chart, like especially the big ones that you said, especially with like the the paradox of death and rebirth. Like there's a very big distance between the two of those. It just feels like a reminder that we are multifaceted, you know, and we're really moving into the paradigm where we can fully claim that. And I think really working with these goddesses now is just going to be another pathway for you to recognize that you are multifaceted. You know, like if you look up Ceres and Google her, you know, the archetype that's going to come up is the mother.
Which
But
is
that
also not very faceted if you just look at that, you know?
it's right. And I feel like I love that. I love that archetype, but it also totally limits and restricts her whole being and her whole story. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're really going to start to uncover with the rest of the asteroid goddesses is that there's especially like the big ones you said, there's going to be so much of the multifacetedness and I think that's what's really exciting. And I shared the other day, I think that it looks like we're going backwards, but we are not. We're moving forwards. And how can you find these parts of yourself that are open to moving forward rather than being held backwards? And I think this is going to be a great way to unlock that for
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah, I think it's ancient future vibes. I think it's like we're going forwards
100%.
and we're also like bringing something back where we were more spiritually connected, where we were more in tune, where we were more living by frequency. And I think too, like when we say the mother is not very faceted, it's not that the mother is not faceted, it's that
Right.
the ways in which we've stereotyped what mother
Yes.
means in society and the ways in which we limit things through language, especially in America. There's other languages that have like words that mean like fell in love at 12 p.m. on a Tuesday and the beauty that you looked in the sunlight. Like they have these words that are so layered. And a lot of times our words are so like putting, like we love to put people in boxes in this country and
Yes.
in a lot of countries. And so the meaning of who Ceres is and what the mother can mean is much larger. I mean, mother at its core is creator energy. It is
Yes.
creation. It is creation of a person. It is creation of a creative idea or a business or whatever that is for you. It is just creating your desired future with intention. And the asteroids bring us back to receptivity and allowance rather than trying to force things, which is what we've been very much doing in the old
Right.
paradigm energy.
Yep. Agreed.
And just like greater coherence and wholeness overall. Um, okay, so Ceres. It's so funny because Jen and I were both like, I feel like it's Ceres. I think some folks in Europe say Ceres, but Americans say Ceres, but it does sound weird. Like I want to say it the other way too. So maybe Jen and I are onto something, and Ceres up there in the ether is going, guys, it's Ceres. Stop
Get it
doing.
right. Although I do like we joke about this too because we read some of the same books and she's always like, "No, that's not the name."
Well, it's because I listen to audiobooks a lot on
Yes,
my walks.
there
And
is a
so I
difference.
know how it's supposed to be pronounced because the author
I'm
is
in my
reading
own
it.
little world making shit up.
Jen will call me and be like, "What do you think's happening with this?" And I'm like, "Who are you even talking about? I don't know who that is." That's funny. Okay,
Uh,
so Ceres is, like I said, the largest and first discovered. She was discovered in 1801 with the major asteroids. Um, she is like also technically on par with Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, because they're all children of Saturn, right?
they're siblings. Yes, they're siblings.
Yeah. So they're all
Yes,
siblings, along with Juno, Vesta, and like they're all like in the
yes,
same rank mythologically. She has about a 4-year orbit and she spends about 4 months in every sign. She's most closely tied to Cancer and Virgo, but also the Taurus Scorpio axis. And she's also very tied to the IC or the nadir opposite your MC, which is kind of that like our foundations and roots, which makes sense. As far as like what she represents astrologically, I mean, you can pull threads from what Jen shared in the myth, but she's definitely a love language. Like it's how we nurture ourselves. It's
hmm
not just about how you nurture others. It is that. And a lot of times, like we do, pass down patterns ancestrally, like the
hmm
sign that our series is in will denote a little bit about our childhood and also how we mother. And sometimes it may mean trying to break patterns that you picked up, as
Yeah.
as a child that you're now reenacting on your kids. And a lot of people have kids. I mean, I hear this all the time. They want to break the patterns of how they grew up, or they didn't grow up in a family that felt whole and they really want to create that for kids, but it's really like how we learn to nurture and how we feel deeply nurtured and how we love ourselves and how we like that's this is like the deep self-care, not the frou-frou IG. I took a bath with candles and posted it on my Instagram. This is like what you really deeply need to
Hmm.
feel resourced, to feel safe, and it's not really like, I think Jen said that, like it's not from a mental space, it's from a felt space. It's like what
Yes.
really feels inside my body, like what are my deepest core needs, which is why I love this one so much because I do think the nervous system drum that I constantly beat over here
Yep.
is like so insanely important. And the main thing of that is like, how do we create a felt sense of safety in our body? Well, that comes from feeling resourced and from feeling nourished in the way that we need to be nourished, right?
Just like the story of the wolves.
Yes.
Like that's when she was resourcing for herself. And like to me, that's like the part of the nervous system care, because she was
Hmm.
finally processing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that story never gets told.
We told it. You
We
told
told
it.
it. We're telling it now.
Amazing. She's also very much tied to death, rebirth, obviously, to grief and loss, to ebbs and flows, which may mean that the house that you have her in your natal chart has ebbs and flows to it, has wins and losses, has that like nature, which there's nothing wrong with that. She's very much tied to how we regenerate, which is important when you think about what sign is she in, what element is she in, what are the house qualities that
Yeah.
she's in. She's very much tied to obviously the seasons and cycles, like we talked about with the actual seasons of spring and summer and winter, but she's also tied to like women's hormonal cycles and like
Mhm.
perimenopause, menopause, fertility. Because of the whole Pluto situation, she's very much tied to separation and reunion energy. Sometimes when people are going through like a aspect or they have Ceres aspected Pluto, that might be a separation energy or um like your child is leaving the nest, or it could be like you're going through a divorce and there's like custody issues going on, right? She's obviously tied to the harvest because of the bounty that is around when Ceres is happy, and to food sovereignty and our relationship to the land, but also our relationship to food and eating patterns and what does food offer us? If you have a Ceres in a water sign, you might be a bit of an emotional eater, or she can point to how to support, along with the moon, disordered eating or like people who put on weight as protection or in a response to holding on to grief, like
Mhm.
that. The metal element in Chinese medicine is the liver and the large intestine, our two organ systems through breath and the other direction of like how do we let shit go, like literally and figuratively, right? If we don't do that and we're like holding on to our grief, a lot of times people will put on protective weight because it's like you don't know how to let go of the stuff that you need to let go of, right? Um, and there may be eating stuff too if she's in earth signs or if she's in your first house or your fourth house. But where she is by house and sign and element and gate gives you information about like your places of healing, right? And also where we might potentially need to clear some emotional residue, especially if we're having eating stuff, because she's very much tied to digestion and the stomach. And so, like, if you're having issues with that, looking at where Ceres is, maybe like, okay, if I clear some emotional residue from this area, like if I do have Ceres in my 10th house, and career is a source of like, with both my moon and Ceres there, it means I'm deeply nourished by a successful career. So when I'm pouring myself out and I'm not getting the reciprocity that I deserve or need, or it's just not happening in that timing because I have a lot of six lines in my career energy, I can develop resentment and heartbreak and things like that around career of just being like, why is it so hard? Or why is this taking so long? Or why has it not happened in the past in the time that I wanted it to happen in? And when we carry those things around, it's blocking me from like moving forward, right? So what did you want to say? So we need to let that stuff go.
that's, you kind of answered it because I was like, I remember saying that she was like the protector, but the nourishing of the young seed. But there was like this, the energy of like eternal provision or abundance. And then I'm like thinking, it, I wonder if she's also guiding us, like you're talking about these blocks and where we can't receive. And like that's definitely Sarah's too, right? Like holding on to how she thinks something has to be. But it's like, where are we blocking our blessings?
Hmm.
With
Yeah.
the resentment or with the like all
Rage
the
with the
things. Yeah,
anger.
with the rage, with the grief, with all the things. And it's like she actually is ridiculously abundant. She has the ability to supply everything, but you can see how she gets in her own way.
Yeah.
So I
And
just
if you
thought that
think
was really
about,
interesting.
yeah. And if you think about in human design too, like 99% of the population has anger bucket as their not self theme, and the other 1% has disappointment. So when we get stuck in those places of anger, frustration, bitterness, disappointment, and we can't let it go, and we're playing those tapes over and over again of why is this so hard, or why is it not happening to me, or why do I keep bumping my head against a wall?
Uh-oh,
That
did I
energy
lose
is
her?
blocking you from getting exactly what you want. So whether you need to move healthy aggression through an emotional somatic practice, or you need to tap on it, or whatever the fuck you need to do to let it go, like that's going to be the way that you move forward, right? And she's telling us that. She's like, that's how we tap the harvest, is by not being in the like low vibrational energy and not carrying it forward. And those energies also keep us sick. Like anger keeps us
Mhm.
sick in our body and keeps us in chronic pain and chronic illness. Resentment is very much tied to the big C. Like we need to like move these things out of our body, right? And she's not just about how we're nourished physically, like putting food in our mouth. She's about how we get sustenance spiritually and emotionally. She's obviously very much tied to control and being able to let go. I mean, having your child kidnapped to the underworld is a pretty big deal,
Yeah,
but
that
also
would
there feels like
that would
some
mess up
like
anybody.
there feels like some enmeshment energy there, maybe a little bit
A
that needs to
hundred
be
percent.
like that needs to be dealt with. Um,
And that was like part of Proserpina's story is like I thought like my mother projected this whole reality like safety and then when she was taken by Hades or Pluto it was like oh my God there's this whole other part of life that I never was allowed to see. I was never given the opportunity to see. So it was like
mhm.
yeah, seeing all these different aspects, but that was like the control part of Ceres. So that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So those are like some of the things that she represents. I mean, there's so many things. She's very tied to a sensitivity to animals. I mean, there's like so many
Yep.
fun threads to pull, but I thought we would use Jen and I's chart a little bit to pull a little thread to just show how we would do it. When I did this workshop in my membership, we spent 2.5 hours pulling threads of like people's signs and
Yep.
elements and gates. And like, there's so many ways that you can look at something. It's so multifaceted in each one of those layers. Um, but I think it's interesting. So Jen has Ceres in Virgo, essentially in rulership too, kind of, if it's very tied to Virgo. And Virgo is very tied to the goddesses in the third house of the goddess. So that makes sense that Jen loves to pull threads about goddesses and teach it because the third house is very much learning and teaching. The third house is very much the goddess, and she's basically got the goddess of all goddesses, like the mother goddess in the goddess in the goddess, you know?
I love that.
Um, so that I love that. And also like me, which is not true for most people, she has Ceres in Virgo in both her personality and her body chart. So in human design, we have like our personality chart that is represented in our natal chart at the time of our birth, and then we have our body chart that was kind of like 3 months before our birth that was imprinted on our body design. Jen has them both in Virgo. I have them both in Aries. Jen actually has them both in her third house because that means Jen is a Cancer rising in her personality side and in her body side, which is like a little bit rare for people to be like that. Makes it simplified, you know.
Does
Um,
it?
I think
I'm
so.
kidding. I'm kidding.
It's a little less like pulling layered threads, I guess,
Yeah,
on
you
one
did say
house.
that.
Yeah. Like I said, I have my series in the 10th house of legacy in Aries. And like a big part of my job is like bringing people to their own autonomy and sovereignty. Like I'm not trying to cultivate reliance over here. I'm like, how do we build self-reliance and how do you step into your power? Um, I have both of them in Aries. I can't remember what house. Doesn't matter. Well, it's in, no, it would, I'm not the same rising sign. But I have them both in Aries, and I have them in gate 17 and 51 respectively. Uh, oh, I have my body Aries in the third house. That's right. So again, that's like goddess energy, and third house is teaching and learning, and I have a packed third house in my personality side, um, which is in Virgo. So
So
vibes.
we both got the Virgo going on.
Yeah. So this podcast was like written in the stars,
It
apparently.
really was. And just to clarify, like I really started working with the goddesses after I got a reading with you, and you were like, you should look into Inanna. And Inanna is like one of the goddesses that I work with all the time. So anyway,
Okay.
I just had to share that because it's like it really feels written in the stars, you know?
Yeah. Full circle moment.
Full circle.
hmm so for people with Ceres in Virgo, we might grow up feeling like we had to be perfect a little bit. And that can result in some self-worth issues down the line or perfectionistic tendencies. It also means we likely need to put our own critical nature in check with people around us, because we can kind of perpetuate that energy a little bit. Which are those, like there's so many people on the planet right now that are here to be cycle breakers, and we can all be like cycle breakers for anything in our chart. Like in Aries, there might be a little bit of that growing up fast energy or taking care of yourself a little bit, especially in Aries or the first house, or like growing up fast or kind of that tough love, suck it up energy. Um, and I think for Virgo too, like, you would nurture through work and service, but also like devotion to your own health and well-being. Like Virgo is a big, big purification, detoxification, taking care of my body. What are the day-to-day rituals that I do to like take care of myself? What is my routine? Jen has hers in gate 40, which I know a lot about. There's two cardinals sitting outside my window right now saying hi.
So
Um,
divine.
yeah. I've got prominent gate 40 in my chart, and yours is in Ceres. So gate 40 really, really, really needs reciprocity and alone time to rest and to feel nurtured. It's like non-negotiable for Jen that she needs to be on her own often to recharge, whether that's like taking a nap or leisure. Like I saw this great post that I shared in my newsletter last week, I think, from War Kitchen, that was like leisure is a lost art. Like just wandering aimlessly, go play a game of tennis, read a magazine from start to finish, listen to an album from start to finish. Like, what are the things that we leisurely do to like replenish ourselves? We're going to talk about, I'm kicking off the nervous system journey. Don't let me forget to mention that at the end next Monday. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the art of doing nothing, like nothing. Like, don't scroll on your phone when you're standing in line. Sit on your back porch and drink a glass of tea without doing anything else but listening to the birds and letting yourself be bored. That is like a huge nervous system love note. But gate 40 is like if we don't have reciprocity, if we don't feel like we have reciprocity, or if we don't have time alone in solitude to process, then we get into that shadow of exhaustion. We're always tired, no matter what. Like we can't get out of it. And it's also very much tied to community. So it's like both and, right? It's kind of that 2-4 energy. It's like you need time alone, but you also need time with your people. This gate is also tied to the stomach. And like, are you assimilating nutrients? One of my favorite quotes of all time from any of my podcasts is from my friend Katie Grossman, who's like, very knowledgeable in Ayurvedic and Marma and like studied in India. And she was like, my teachers basically say if your nervous system is on point, you can eat anything you want and you won't have any issues. And if your nervous system is not on point, like you're going to have a lot of stuff bother you. I think that's so true. Like so many people are pounding supplements that their body is not absorbing in any
Yep.
way because their nervous system is so dysregulated and you're not assimilating it. So super important. It also means like vagus nerve work for Jen would be super important. Like doing the humming, doing the ooh-ah-ees, like gargling, things that like really move the vagus nerve and like wake it up and make it happy. Uh, and then like your own balance between serving and enjoyment, between being of service and like nourishing, filling up your cup and enjoying life. So that's your personality series, your body series, which I personally feel like is as important, especially with this one, because when we're talking about when we're talking about planets or asteroids or things that are about really, like when we're talking about a body Mercury that is about like the subconscious mind, it's like the body side is the subconscious, and then we're talking about subconscious mind. Or if we're
Right.
talking about the body moon, it's like, how do we create that felt safety in the body? Yes, yes, our, Saturn in our natal chart is important, but probably your body Saturn is as important for how you're going to create real stability, like real felt sense of like groundedness and stability in your soma, not just as a mental construct.
Yeah, which are
So,
two different things. Two different
yes.
things.
Yes. So I think the body side is so important, and we dive into it a lot inside my membership. And I think there are certain placements like moon, sun, ascendant, uh, Ceres, Mercury that are like extra important. Obviously, your body, Mars, is core wound energy, much like Chiron. But hers is in gate 64. So still Virgo, which is why it does make it a little simpler when you're saying, like, what does my series need? It's like my series needs Virgo energy, Earth energy, um, on both sides of the spectrum.
Right.
And then gate 64 is big, like, are you becoming one with your thoughts? Or are you watching? Are you able to step outside of your thoughts and like observe them? One of the things I think that's so interesting about 64 from a physical perspective is that it said that 64 can carry the pain of the world through the quantum field using confusion as avoidance. So it's like when we stay in these spaces of like mental and not, which I know you, so we've talked about these things, like drop it down into the body.
Hmm.
Um, it's oh so important. Also, obviously, to have healthy boundaries, and the need to kind of transmute low vibe thinking and self-doubt is a big one. Like this would be a big one for subconsciously reprogramming limiting beliefs around worth, around self-love, around things like that. When we look at a placement like this, like Ceres, it's like this is going to ripple out in your whole life, doing this one thing, tending to this one very important piece, right?
Well, and I want to like just reiterate, just because from my own personal experience and exactly what you just said, where it's like, for me specifically, because we're looking at my chart, where it's like those reoccurring thoughts can happen and you go into the shadow self and you just keep going and going and going and like creating worthiness or tapping into the body. But it's like I can't recreate, like, I can't just do affirmations and that be enough. Like, I have to be in the body. And that has been something that I've been learning over the last couple of years is I'm not going to think myself out of this. So if I'm like feeling like I'm spiraling, the last thing I need to do is sit down. Like, I can't even do a tapping exercise. I have to go to fascia and deep breath.
Yeah.
Like I can't even be like, oh, da da da. So it's really getting into the body, understanding all the different tools that you can pull from, and then knowing what you need in that specific moment. Because I could
Mhm.
affirm all day and it is not what I need.
Yeah. I think too, like affirmations are great. They don't
Yes.
work for most people. If you're going to do them while you're tapping, because then you're like
Yes.
tapping a programming into your system rather than saying, like, most people use affirmations in a way that actually keeps them stuck in the gap between where they are and where they want to be because they're feeling stressed about money and they're going, I'm abundant. I'm
Yeah,
abundant.
right,
And their
right.
subconscious is going, no, you're fucking not. You can't pay your gas bill. And that's what's broadcasting out into the world. So
Yes.
we can't like in this is the space we use subliminals because it's like we're trying to reprogram it under the surface and then we're trying to like move the stuff out of the soma that's like getting in the way. And a lot of times before we can do a tapping, we need to like move some
Body.
discharge out of the
Yeah.
body and then we can like do the tapping or something like that.
Yeah.
But affirmations are largely hooey. Also because, I mean, they're great if you use them in the right way, like as subliminal
Yes.
reprogramming or as tapping. But I feel like there's so many people out there being like, just say the thing. And also, your nervous system is largely creating what's going on in your mind. So if you're trying to override it by just like saying the thing, but your nervous system is like totally out of whack, then your nervous system is going to keep spitting out low vibrational thoughts. If we go bottoms up and address the nervous system, then we have better thoughts happening naturally.
This has been like a big learning experience because I think you and I, we both listened to Abraham Hicks. And I loved Abraham Hicks, but I would be like, why is the thing not happening? I'm in the vortex. Like I'm in the, but all of it has to do, like if your body does not feel safe with receiving said thing, and it's not because you don't want it, it's because of what else is wired, in the body
Yeah.
that we don't know about. So it just makes so much sense to me. And that in itself is so hard, right? Like for me personally, it's like, oh, I'm spiraling. I want to go talk it out. That's not what I need. I need to go be in my body. And that's still like a pattern where I'm like, oh, no, Jen, you don't need to talk it out for the eighth time. You need to go be in the body. And so like that really resonates, that,
Yeah.
I mean, all of it has, but I feel very seen.
Yeah, I used to have a breathwork teacher that would be like, if you have that friend that calls you for the third time to vent, tell them to get off the phone and do some breath work because they're venting. It's basically just saying enough things to like swallow it back down into your
Yes.
system. You're not actually getting it out. You're just
No.
like playing, it's like playing a tape on repeat, in your field too. Um, but what I think is really interesting about these, so both of these gates are part of the Ring of Alchemy, which is said to be instrumental in bringing peace to Earth. It's also about transmuting DNA so that there is no longer interference, which I think is really interesting because when we were talking about Tartaria and portals and stuff and
Yes.
the up leveling and the crystalline structure that we're all moving through, this is very much that energy. And it's very much like as within, so without. Like when you marinate in gratitude and the expectation of good things, your heart opens and more heart opening experiences are magnetized to you. And then life begins to change in your outer reality and more synchronicities and miracles are drawn to you. So it's really cool. And then I was looking at this one for you after I pulled them this morning. And the amino acid associated with this gate in your body series of what nourishes you is glycine, which I literally sent you an article about glycine like 2 weeks ago that I was like, you should read this because I think you might need some glycine, which is wild. So, like, there's threads on threads on threads on threads on threads we can always pull, right?
I'm obsessed. I got to go back and look at that.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think a lot of people right now, because there's just so much nervous system dysregulation in the world, like I take glycine at night. A lot of people can benefit from taking glycine at night or like having more um like gelatin and things like that in your
Yeah.
life, but a lot of us can use glycine. So I literally sent Jen this article like weeks ago and was like, you should look into this. I feel like you could use glycine because sometimes I just get little intuitive nudges about
Yeah,
things.
the pings.
And then it's like these things like our moon and Ceres and our ascendant like really give us information about what we physically need, in addition to like all the other stuff. Um, so that's really fun.
I love that. I can't believe that came up. I should believe that. And I love,
Yeah,
what is it called? The Ring of Alchemy. I love that.
yeah. That's a Gene Keys thing, like where
Yes.
he puts them together with their programming partners. I mean, they have their programming partners in human design, but how he phrases it and set up his system is like very much like that. Um, so like I said, I've got mine in series, my series in Aries. If you've also got your series in Aries, then there's a lot about cultivating autonomy. nurturing through action and physical movement. Because mine's in career, it's very tied to like what I do in my work. But like if you had Ceres and Aries in the sixth house, then it would be very much about physical movement, very much about action, very much about discharging healthy aggression, which I talk about a lot with my moon there. That I'd like to have both of them there. I'm like, wow, now I really get it. Um, Aries series can be like quite competitive, which I was back in the day. I've like really tamed that. I'm 46 now and I've like really like calmed that down. But I used to be the person that we'd have game night at my house in the hills in LA and I would be like screaming, like, you're not paying attention. We would be like, I
Oh
was
my
in
God,
it to win it,
you're
guys.
David.
What?
You're David from Schitt's
Yeah.
Creek.
Yeah, I was super competitive. I'm really not anymore. I can be like, whatever, I just have fun. But in my younger years, this is how we grow and learn with self-awareness, guys. It was pretty brutal. I was also quite a risk taker. Like I leapt a lot. I moved to cities I'd never been to. I jumped off mountains. I jumped out of planes. I like did all the things. And that's very like Aries moon and Ceres in Aries. One of the things that I thought was interesting too, I mean, it makes sense to me though, is like when I looked at my gate 51 on which gate 51 is a vibe. Those
Yeah,
of you who have it.
didn't you just post about Gate 50?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think it's a really interesting gate to talk about in this time because it's literally the gate of awakening. And it does talk about like that kind of chaos that comes before we wake up.
Yes.
And also just like it's got that poke the bear energy. So people who have gate 51 prominently in their chart, like I've had people cry listening to that audio that I have in the collective because they just feel seen because it's such a catalyzing energy that people feel poked by them a lot. And that feels like that's a hard thing to carry, you know, but it's also a beautiful thing to carry because you are a catalyzer. To have it in my
The
body
paradox.
series may mean that there's a little bit of like the nervous system zinginess too, and that like underlying agitation, it's tied to the gallbladder, which I think is really interesting because the liver and the gallbladder are the wood element, which is tied to anger. And like that means that's kind of like same areas processing that out. Um, for me, like it's going to be a lot the healthy aggression piece, the taking healthy risks piece, and like the freedom piece, because otherwise I start to feel stagnant and like I get really restless and agitated if I'm not like moving. Aries is a cardinal energy, so it needs to be like moving things forward. I think one of the things that's interesting tied to 51 is self-forgiveness. And I think that's
Ooh,
something that
that's
a
a
lot
good
of
one.
people don't, you know, when we struggle in certain areas of our life and we realize like I'm somewhat responsible for the reality that I'm creating, we can then be hard on ourselves, which doesn't actually serve us moving forward either. Or just the ways we've like mucked it up in our lives or made things harder for ourselves.
I
So
think that was
51 is very
in
tied to that.
I think that showed up in this week's energy too. Um, was the apology aspect or self-forgiveness or forgiveness in general, and just trying to take the high road and forgive yourself or forgive the other instead of prolonging or recycling the same thing over and over and over again. And I think that's what we're really seeing in the collective, where we just want to keep like so many people just want to keep recycling. And I think we're all experiencing that, to different degrees, probably more so depending on our charts. But like, I love that where it's don't get stuck in the anger side of it. And I think that's also where a lot of people are. A lot of
Yeah.
people seeing this in the collective. And I think that's the thing. Like Amanda and I talk about this all the time because we are both on the train of the new paradigm. Like you are not going to get us off that train. Um, but so many people are stuck in this anger and want to point fingers at one another rather than really, you know, looking at yourself and taking the high road or creating a higher road for yourself where you're not getting sucked back into the regurgitated story. of
Yeah.
the collective, right? Not even just our own selves, like our own regurgitated stories, but like the regurgitated stories of the collective. So
Yeah.
that feels like a really big, that feels like a really potent key for gene key for right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of ours in their own ways have like good lessons for the collective that of the energy that we're in right now. You know, that ring of alchemy is like, how do we bring peace to earth as within, so without? Like, what these people that are stuck in their anger and fear don't realize is they're just creating more of that by being stuck in it, by pointing fingers. Even those of us that got stuck in it for a while, like,
Yep.
why won't these people wake up? And I want to get people to wake up. Like, that energy doesn't serve either. Like, it's just
No,
like, can we just love everybody for like where they're at? And like everybody's going to move into things in their own timing. But the new paradigm, I
it's
keep
very
saying
Ceres.
over what?
Letting that's very Ceres is like letting go of the control of
Yes.
controlling somebody like where, you know, with her daughter, she wanted her to be on a certain path. So it's like letting go of the control.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all feels so aligned. It's really wild.
Yeah. And, you know, the letting go piece is like the new paradigm. I keep saying, like, yes, that astrology supports us to move into a new world. Yes, it's coming. Like, more beauty is coming, more ease is coming, more abundance is coming, free energy is coming. Like, yes, yes, yes. And
We have
we
to
are who we
co-create it.
are in whatever circumstances we are inside of. You know, like people will tell you over and over again that they made millions of dollars and then they lost it, or they squandered it, or they stayed as angry and unhappy as they've always been. And this new paradigm is saying, do not carry your shit into this new
Yes.
energy. And that is something that we have to actively choose to let go of. Like the it's not going to be a clean slate. Like in 3 years, we're not going to be like, oh, we all feel great. All my trauma just melted out of my body. Like that's not going to happen. But you are being aided by the solar storms, the Schumann
Yes.
resonance, the astrology, like the crystalline upgrades. Everything is like supporting you to be like, let go and step into a higher frequency and radiate love and joy and expect good things and orient yourself to beauty. And we will create more of that much faster. The people that are miserable now are going to carry their misery into the new world. Nothing is going to change that, you know, because they're stuck in that energy. So I think it's really, really important to be letting go of your baggage. Um,
Yeah.
that's
I
fire
wrote,
horse energy. The fire horse is
yeah,
like, stop carrying the shit through. We're trying to move faster, you know, like
right.
drop a trunk or two. You're weighing me down.
Yeah, that I wrote an article from Celeste, which is like the galactic being that I travel channel. I travel, I channel. And it basically is saying that, like right now we have the optical illusion where it looks like we're going backwards, but it's called the reverse. I can't even remember what she called it, but it's like the illusion where the tire is moving so fast, but it looks like it's going backwards.
Mm.
So it's giving that optical illusion. So people are feeling like we're going backwards. We're not moving forwards, but we are moving forwards. But the biggest question is, if we don't change, if we do not change and we get everything that we want, what actually changes?
Right. Yeah.
Nothing, you know, because we can't receive the blessings. We cannot receive the abundance. We're still angry. We're still hating one another. So, yes, like Amanda said, all these things are coming, but how are we choosing to align ourselves with what's coming?
Yeah.
And I think like doing this series is just like so perfect because again, like these goddesses, like I love how in the beginning you were like, we've had a lot of like the patriarchal, like the masculine energy, and it's been very hard for many of us who know what's coming and to allow ourselves to soften into that, like to soften into the beauty, to receive it, to become it, to allow it, the abundance, the flow rather than, you know, go, go, go. And I just think that these goddesses are, and especially like with Ceres, you can literally see from her story and what, Amanda just covered, like it's picking, I think, one seed, right? Like because what I gave energetically and what Amanda just gave astrologically, you could feel very overwhelmed with all the information, right? But you can pick a seed rather than trying to like take all the seeds, pick one seed and allow that to like unfurl for you, Let that be your focal point.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many ways to approach it. I mean, there's just like even you can look at things emotionally, you can look at
Yep.
things physically. Like, look how red my face is right now. That's Ceres and the moon in Aries. That's like so much energy
In your head.
in my head, which after this, anytime I do calls like this or I talk a lot, I have to then go discharge energy or I'll get a headache because I've just brought it's just like how my physiology functions, you know? And because I've got, like, I would say too, like anyone who has Ceres and Aries is probably going to need to hydrate more. Like, I have to overly hydrate, which I think we all need to be doing right now with the energies. But in general, those that have, like, you can just look at the constitution of something like Aries is hot and dry. So if you've got Ceres, this like nourishing tied to like how you nourish in Aries, you're probably going to need to hydrate more. It's probably going to be more than water. Like you're going to need chia water
Yes.
and minerals and things that feel like more hydrating. So there's layers on layers on layers on layers. It's so fun though. And to wrap it up, if you need help with these layers, Jen and I decided to create bundle,
Bundle.
a little bundle offering, which I'll drop the link below. It's going to be basically like Jen will do like a 30-ish minute energetic read and like well, I can let you say what you're going to do. What I will do is a 30-minute like astrological read of your series. And like do a deep dive on both the personality and the body and like what you uniquely need and what you can kind of orient to, how you can harness the energy and utilize the energy, because that's what all of these things want in our chart is channels. They want you to see them and recognize them and give them outlets. So I'll do that. And then Jen is going to do.
I'm going to do the energetic aspect of it. So I will look at your energies, see what comes up maybe as like the most important theme right now, like in your right now energy. I will also tap into Ceres herself and just see if she has a specific message for you. And I think also tap into your higher self and see what messages, she or he has for you as well. And I think that would probably be about it. Every reading session can be different a little bit, but that will be pretty much the outline of what my part will be.
Yeah. So we're
But
gonna
I
do
think it's like we're so excited about it.
mm-hmm. We're gonna do them pre-recorded. So you can order them. Jen's gonna put it up on her website and then she will send it to me and we will both send you our half of the pre-recording. And as we add more goddesses, we will add more options. So right now,
Yes.
series is the option, and as we add more, we'll give you more options um for the bundle, which is super exciting. And then I also have obviously my collective membership. As we move through these goddesses, we will do like thread pulling on the charts for members in office hours. If you missed the series one, that's okay. There was a 2.5 hour recording for you to pull threads around. And then we'll do it as each one rolls out. And then two, like I really do think it's important to explore the big four. Like I said, Ceres,
Yeah.
Pallas, Juno, and Vesta are important for everyone. But as we move down the line, if you want to people can also do a one-on-one with me where we will look at what are the important ones for you because it's different for everybody. Like as we start pulling more threads, it can be fun and it can get overwhelming with like all of the possibilities.
Mhm.
So I always tell my members like to pay attention to what's in your angular houses, to pay attention to what is aspecting your personal planets, to pay attention to what you're drawn to, like I heard Hygeia 3 times in my sphere. And then I listened to a Hygeia podcast and I was like, interesting. And then I pulled Hygeia in my chart and she's directly conjunct my midheaven. And I was like, cool. Okay, that's why I was probably drawn to her, right? So like see, it can be lots of things. Like yes, you can
Yeah.
book an astrology reading that's going to tell you like what ones are really prominent for you and how you might want to utilize them, or if there's something that you're working towards and you want a goddess asteroid help for it. And what are you drawn to? What do you hear? What feels like it lights you up? And then Jen is also going to do a separate reading if you want
Yep.
on your like what's coming through for you right now, right? So you can talk about that.
Yeah, it's just going to be a little bit different. Like, if you do the bundle, you're picking, you're specifically picking the goddess that we're working with that month. But if you are scheduling a goddess reading with me, then we are looking specifically at that goddess. Like what is maybe coming up for you in your life? What is a theme? What's a struggle? And I ask for like one word answers because of the way that I work. I don't want like a whole, paragraph of explanation. But we can look at a theme and I will energetically tap in and see what goddess is really trying to make herself connected to you right now. So it would be much different than what we're doing with the bundle. And that's really, I mean, because I'm doing it that way, that's going to be any goddess, anyone that's coming up. That could be Norse mythology, that could Greek mythology, that could be Hindu mythology. So there's lots to choose from there. And not that you get to choose, but I energetically get to tap in and see who's coming up for you. So it'll be really incredible. Um, and then the other thing is, if you want to work with the goddesses I created, it's called the Dark Goddess Temple Journey. And it is like go at your own pace journey that you can do with 4 goddesses that we worked with in a container with 20 other women. And it goes through, I call them pillars, but you work through one pillar with each goddess. And it's like a really great way to maybe just get yourself introduced with the goddesses, and help yourself work through some of these things that we all carry with us, like Medusa might be your rage. Persephone might be, where did I abandon myself? So it kind of, and what would be really cool too is, well, that might come down the road, but even like you and I figuring out a way to make another bundle in that capacity too.
Hmm.
But um, and then yes, like Amanda said, you can definitely work with me if you're not feeling pulled to the goddesses. I have different one-on-ones that we can absolutely work together. I have the Channel of Now and a couple other readings where we look at the subconscious, or we work with the, higher self for, your purpose and what you're here to do, and kind of the new paradigm vibes. So there's plenty of options. There's plenty of options.
Awesome. Well, like we said, well, I don't think we said, I think we're going to do one of these a month. Yeah,
Yeah.
is that what we decided? So we'll be back next month with another one. We haven't decided which one
Yes.
yet.
And I like the way that I said it. I don't want to confuse anybody. You don't have to work with the goddess that like if you get in and we've been doing this for 3 months, you don't have to choose the goddess that we're doing that month specifically. You could go back and pick Ceres and, whatever, whichever one you feel called to work with. But
Yes.
the more we do the podcasts, we'll have the options there for you.
Mhm. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us,
Yes.
and we'll see you next time.